Hi guys, it's Miss Kelly here. I wish that we could be in class today together, but I know that we can't, so we're gonna get through what we can with our booklets here. So I've got some fraction tiles. We are gonna be working on fractions today. We've actually just got 2 books for you all. Since we're kind of getting into a new topic, I wanna make sure that we go slow and really make sure that you understand everything that we're doing. So we're gonna be working on 03.36, which is understanding equivalent fractions, okay? So you all have done fractions a little bit before. So if we looked at just kind of remembering what we've learned, okay? So if we look at this fraction, 3 out of the 5 equal parts are colored, right? We know that that 3 stands for the numerator. That's the number on top. Denominator is out of the whole thing, which is 5, so 3/5, okay? Now this one, Ken, Tim, and Ida each had a cake that was the same size. They cut their cake into equal parts before eating it. So Ken cut his into 2 pieces and he ate 1/2. Now Tim, I'm sorry. Ken cut his into 2 pieces and ate 1/2. Tim ate 2/4 of his cake. And then Ida ate 3/6 of her cake. Okay, so we can see here that all 3 of those pieces are the same size, right? That means that 1/2, 2/4, and 3/6 are what we can call equivalent fractions, okay? So now let's look onto your next page. One thing we can do to find out equivalent fractions is multiplying both the numerator and the denominator of a fraction by the same number, okay? So go ahead and write 1/3 down for me, and we're gonna see what we can multiply that by. Okay, so we have 1/3. We're going to multiply, just like we said a second ago, multiply both the numerator, oops, sorry, you can't see that, the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So let's multiply them by 2. Times 2 times 2. So 1/3 is equal to 2/6. Let's see if that's right. 1/3, 2/6. I can tell that those are the same pieces, okay? Now, let's see, can we find another number that is equal to 2/3? So the other example in your book is multiplying by 4. Can we find another number? Let's multiply by, we've multiplied by 1, we multiply by 2 and we multiply by 4. What if we multiply by 3? So let's do times 3 and times 3. So this would be 3/9. Let's check that. So 1/3, not sure if I have ninths. But they would be the same, okay? So that would be another equivalent fraction. And we know that. So we can also get an equivalent fraction in another way, okay? Instead of multiplying, we can divide both the numerator and the denominator of a fraction by the same number. And that is called something different. That's what we would call simplifying the fraction. All right, so we are gonna learn how to simplify fractions today too. So with 1/3, we can't simplify that any further. We can't make that into anything smaller than what it is, okay? We say that that's the simplest form of 4/12, which is what we started with, okay? Another thing that we can use to show fractions, which is in your book, is a number line, okay? So each number line starts from 0 and ends at 1 whole, okay? So the markings are similar to equal parts of a whole. So like if I was doing 6th, my marks, I would have 6 of them, and they would go from 0 to 1, okay? If you're doing 12, you're gonna have 12 marks. So whatever your fraction is, it'll depend on what your number line looks like, okay? So we can use number lines to help us find equivalent fractions. So from these number lines, we can see that 1/4 and 2/8 are equivalent, okay? Can you find another pair of equivalent fractions on here? So I see that 2/4, let's take it straight down, 4/8, those are equivalent, right? 3/4 and 6/8, those are equivalent as well, okay? So now let's go into our guided practice. Complete the equivalent fractions, fill in the missing numerators and denominators. All right, so this first one is drawn in forests, right? It is one piece is shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces all together, okay? Now we've got to figure out this over here. Now that would be the same as 2 pieces, right? 2 pieces are shaded. So now, just like we did over here, remember if you multiply the numerator and denominator by the same thing, you get the equivalent fraction. So 1 times 2 is 2, 5 times 2 is 10, okay? I can always check this with my fraction tiles. I know you all may not have these at home, but when we're back at SAM, we can definitely always check them together. So that 1/5 should be equal to my 2/10, and it is, they're the same. Means we're good on that one, okay? Part B on this one. So we've got, this one's done for us, 2 out of our, so 2/3 is shaded. This one, what are we missing on top? Right, should be 4 out of the 6, which we also, remember, you can multiply them by the same number, okay? 2 and 2, and so give me 4. This one I'm multiplying by 3, so 6 and 3 times 3 is 9, so 6/9, okay? We can skip C for now. I think you all know how, oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and do C, because this time they're dividing. So 4/8. If we divide 8 by 2, we get 4, right? What about 4 divided by 2? That would give us 2, which matches with our picture. And then this one, dividing by 2, this is showing that 1/2, okay? Now, number 2 down here, we're gonna find 2 pairs of equivalent fractions on our number lines, okay? So remember, all we have to do is see which fractions line up together. I see these and these. So that tells me that 1/3 is equal to 2/6 and 2/3 is equal to 4/6. Okay? All right. So we're gonna do a few of these. Let me find the ones that I wanted us to do. Okay, so we are gonna go to page 9, page number 9, so it's number 3 on page 9. And what we have to do here is find the simplest form of each fraction. Fill in the missing numerator or denominator, okay? So your first problem there says 3/9 is equal to what? Okay, so we know that that can go smaller. We have to figure out what number can we divide both of these by, okay? And I know that I can divide them both by 3. So we're gonna do divide by 3, divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is gonna leave me with 1. 9 divided by 3 is gonna leave me with 3. So 1/3. Now, can we make that any smaller? We always wanna check. Is there anything else we can divide both 1 and 3 by? And there's not, so we're done, okay? All right, let's see, that was part A. Let's go ahead and do B. So B has 2/4. Now this one doesn't tell you what to divide by. Is there a number that we can divide both of these numbers by to make it a smaller fraction? What do you all think? Yep, we can divide by 2. So let's divide by 2, divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is gonna give me 1. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. So 2/4 is equal to 1/2, and we did this one earlier. Here's my 1/2. There's my 2/4. I can see that those are the same. They are equal, okay? So the rest of page 9 is basically the same thing, okay? Dividing to make it into a smaller fraction. Find the simplest form of each fraction. What is the so let's do part A. What is the simplest form of 2/6? 2/6. All right, so let's start with 2/6. What do you all think that we can divide both 2 and 6 by? What can they both go into? We know they can go into 1. We always want to find the biggest number they can go into. So let's try 2. And remember, if we do it and we figure out that it can be divided by something again, we can do it again to make it smaller. So 2 divided by 2, 6 divided by 2. So this would give me 1/3. And that's the simplest form. We can't get any smaller than that. There's nothing else that I can divide both of those numbers by, okay? The rest of those pages, you're doing the same thing for 10 and 11. Simplest form. All right. Now, on page 15, we're going to be looking at some fractions here to see if they are in their simplest form. And if they are, we're just going to circle yes, keep it moving. If they're not, we're going to have to figure out what that simplest form is. So 2/5. Let's write that one down. 2/5. Now, I'm looking at these numbers. Is there something that I can divide both of these numbers by to make it smaller? Can't do 2. 5 can't go into 2. Can't do anything bigger than that because 2 couldn't go into it, right? So this number, this fraction, is already in its simplest form. Yes. Okay. Same, let's look at the next one. Next one is 5/6. All right, so let's go through our numbers. Can we divide these numbers by 2? No. By 3? No. 4? No. 5? No. Can't go any higher than that. So 5/6 is already in its simplest form. What about 2/4? So we always start with 2. Can we divide both of these numbers by 2? Sure can. So this one is not in its simplest form. So let's divide by 2. Divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay? So make sure you're circling no, and then you write that on the back. Same thing for pages 16 and 17. Let's go to page 18 because we're going to be looking at that number line to answer the questions that are on the next page. Okay? So using this number line, we're going to go to this page over here to answer the question. So part B says, find the simplest form of 2/6 and the I skipped part A, I'm sorry. Go down to part A. Find 2 fractions that are equivalent to 2/6. All right, so I'm gonna find 2/6. Here it is. Now, what I like to do is kind of just like draw an imaginary line, even a dotted line, all the way down. So 2/6 is equal to 3/9. 2/6 is also equal to 4/12. Okay? So the simplest form of 2/6, we're gonna have to figure it out, okay? So 2/6, what can we divide both 2 and 6 by? That's right, we can divide by 2. So this would be 1/3, okay? Now the next fraction we found was 3/9. So it's asking us to find I was skipping on to part B already. So 2 fractions that are equivalent to 2/6 is 3/9 and 4/12. That's all you gotta write there, okay? So now I was moving on to part B. Sorry about that. We were finding the simplest form of 2/6, which we got to 1/3. Now we also have to find the simplest form of the fractions we found in part A, which were 3/9 and 4/12. All right, so what can I divide both 3 and 9 by to make them into a smaller fraction? Can't go into 2. What about 3? Yes, 3. So let's try that one. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now let's go down to 4/12. All right, so Remember, when you're doing this, you're trying to find the biggest number that you can divide both of them by, okay? So I can start with 2. Yes, I can divide both of these numbers by 2, but let's see if there's something bigger. Can we divide them by 3? No. Can we divide them both by 4? Yes, so let's try that. Divided by 4, divided by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 would give me 3. So let's look at our 3 answers here. What do you notice? These 3 fractions all have the same simplest form. Why do you think that is? Because they are all equivalent to the fraction that we started with, which was 1/3. Okay? All right, so make sure you finish up C and D. I think we can do those on our own. And the rest of this should be pretty simple for you all. Just remember, when you're trying to find things that are equivalent, you want to find the biggest number that you can divide both of them by, okay? We used our fraction tiles to kind of get a visual for it, so try to remember this when you're doing this at home. I know you may not have these tiles, but you can still visualize this or do the try to make the number line, okay? And that's all.